Welcome everyone to this installment of the Aperitif concert. I am Stacy Dyson. I am the head of Tesoro, and Tesoro is an international women's poetry network, although we, also welcome songwriters, screenplay writers, any woman who works with words. We say this every week. I don't see it, or every time we do this, I don't see any reason to change it. We are blessed to welcome this particular poet. I don't do intros or bios. I think the poet can do that so much better themselves. So I'm just going to introduce her and let her tell us, a little bit about herself. Please welcome to the Aperitif Concerts, Noelia Cerna. How you doing?
Yep. Yeah, get it, girl.
I'm good, Stacy. I'm good.
Okay. Give us a thumbnail bio, honey.
Well, I have a book coming out with Black Florence Press this summer. I'm a book editor for the North Meridian Review. Um, and that's pretty much what I'm up to these days, apart from just being a mom.
Okay. Um, so as I promised you, a nice soft little interview here. I will start you off, however, with the question that I ask everyone who does this show, and you can interpret it however it is you want to interpret it. Why poetry and why now?
Oh, well, I actually started writing in junior high. We had a classmate that died, and our English teacher introduced an emergency poetry unit because she wanted to give us a way to vocalize what we were feeling. Um, and it saved my life then. And I feel like in a lot of ways it keeps me here. And if it can keep me here, the hope is that it can keep someone else here as well. Because I think we kind of, with the world the way that it is right now, we kind of have to hold on to each other in whatever way we can.
Definitely. Talk to us about your book a little bit,
Yeah, so my book
starting with
started,
the title, because I said I know I'm going to mess it up, so I'm going to let you tell us
I'm looking
what it
forward to
is.
a lot of readings of people just looking at me like I'm not doing it. Called Las Piedrecitas. It's actually the name of a park in Nicaragua that my dad used to take me to when I was very little. And the book is kind of a conversation primarily between him and I. It's my way of kind of coming to terms with my culture, who I am as a Latina, who I am in my family, who I am just as myself. Um, it kind of walks me through, using my Spanish more. When we came here, it was 1994, Arkansas. There were not a lot of Latinos here, and the ones that were here had never seen a Costa Rican before. So I got made fun of a lot. And so this book is kind of me reclaiming what it means to be Latina, because there's really no right or wrong way to be what you are. You just have to be you. So that's kind of what the book is trying to work through.
Huh? What is the earliest you remember doing this? I tell people all the time I started writing when I was 5.
Um, well, I actually wrote my first official poem in junior high, but I was writing before then. I just didn't realize that that's what I was doing. I remember my parents make fun of me all the time because when I was in elementary school, I wrote this very detailed book about what White Horse ate for breakfast. And it was very important to me that the people know what White Horse ate for breakfast. And I figured out as I was looking through, I've kept all of my notebooks. I was like, you've been a writer literally your whole life. I just
Okay.
I just didn't know at the time.
So you have this book under your belt. What comes next?
Oh, this question.
Every writer I know, because I have to tell you this, having now published twice and done a ton of shows and all of that. Somebody said to me once, "You must just, like party all the time, when you get off stage, or when you finish this." And I said, "No, I get off and my immediate thought is, what next?"
I was thinking about that as I was panicking about this book coming out because, you get to that point where you're like, oh my God, it's actually going to be out in the world. Like my mother's going to be able to read this book.
Right.
But I've been kind of toying with the idea of putting together a collection of work about postpartum and about being a first time mom. Um, because it's when you have, generational trauma, when you have things in your past that you're healing from, when you have to do a lot of work, parenthood is it's rough because you're having to parent yourself too. And so I kind of wanted to start a book about what that's been like, because it's been really hard, but very, very beautiful and very healing at the same time. And I feel like it could speak to at least somebody out there.
Cool. Let's go back a little bit. You were talking about defining yourself or trying to define yourself as a Latina. What did you come up with? I'm curious.
Oh, I don't know if I'm ever actually going to be able to answer that question. I know that there's a poem that I wrote. I'm not reading today because it's not finished, I don't feel like, but I was talking about how I was jealous of my daughter's dad because he would, he'd speak Farsi to her so effortlessly without even thinking about it. And I have a hard time even addressing her in Spanish because I feel like an imposter. I feel like it's not even my language. And I'm fluent in Spanish. I'm fully bilingual. Um, and I still have a hard time. I was talking in the poem about how I want to call her, amores or mija, and it won't come out. Um, so I think right now I'm just kind of becoming. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Um, but I know I definitely want to try and take her back to Costa Rica. I haven't been back since I was a teenager. It's been a very long time, but I feel like it's more important now than it's been to me.
Do you think just worldwide right now, that that's sort of the feeling for people to make sure that their children or that younger people connect with their roots as such, because the world is in such turmoil, and feeling like if we can't give them anything else, we need to give them something to hold on to.
I feel that as somebody who's actively like deconstructing from religion, you know, I've struggled with, well, what am I going to give her, you know? But I just want her to feel comfortable being who she is. I don't want her to have to tiptoe around who she is. Like I was telling you before that I had given her not even one easy name. Her names are Farsi and Spanish, and I don't ever want her to feel like she has to break herself down into digestible pieces. I want her to be fully and unapologetically who she is, and I want her to know what that means because it's been so hard for me. Um, and so for me, what I want to give her is that space to just be and understand that I'm going to be proud of her no matter what. I just want her to be herself, whatever that
Very,
looks like.
Very cool. Um, so in that light, then what do you want for you? What's the blue sky dream? You know, $10 million in an island in the Caribbean. You
Oh,
know,
we're right.
what's the big should be impossible is probably improbable, but you never know dream.
Actually, I used to think that I wanted to be one of those poets that was like on the New York Times bestseller list, and I wanted to be on this podcast and on this TV show. And honestly, after becoming a mom and after becoming sober and all of these things, I just want to be happy and healthy and just healed. And I want my daughter to see that. I feel
Okay.
like that's the goal.
Beautiful. Is it? I'll take your 10 million. That's cool.
I'll write you a
I'll
check.
I'll I'll share it with you. It's
It
Bella.
might bounce,
Uh,
but you try to take it to the bank.
talk to me about 5 years from now.
Oh, 5 years from now. Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to get through lunch, Stacy. I know that I want to write, I want to at least try to start another book. This book took 10 whole, it was a whole thing. It took 10 years to get this thing out. But I know I want to at least start working on another collection, and I really just want to take care of my girl, and just be present with her, because I feel like so much of parenthood is like, oh, when is this phase going to be over? And then you're looking at them and you're like, they're only going to be this little for so long. And if I blink, I'm going to miss it. And I just want to be present. I just want to remember this part, you know? So I think right now I'm just trying to keep myself in the right now. The world is so insane right now that who the hell knows, if it's even going to exist in 5 years, because it's just insane.
We've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm just gonna, rapid fire some. We want some general information questions.
Okay.
Get you favorite ice cream,
Mint chocolate chip.
favorite book,
American Gods, Neil Gaiman.
favorite movie.
Oh, that's a hard one. I've been really into How to Train Your Dragon right now. I mean, I have a 1-year-old, so that movie cry. So like right now we're into that.
No, I get it. I know more about Barney the purple dinosaur than anybody really needs to know.
I tell people,
So
ask me anything about pop culture. I watch Sesame Street every day. I don't know what's going on outside of that.
Sesame Street's pretty hip. Pretty much, you haven't made it in any biz until
They
you
have
have played Sesame
it
Street.
there. It's great.
The Electric Company was better, but we can have that discussion some other.
Yes,
Where
yes,
was
yes. Stacy Dyson Electric Company was the bomb.
you've pretty much covered what it is you want and what it is you wish for. What's the we're gonna, on the philosophical tip, and this is how we'll end it. What's the wish for the world? In one word, what's the wish for the world?
I think right now what we need the most of is just hope. I feel like people are just hopeless right now. They feel like it's not going to get any better. And, just for people to feel that hope again, because you can't change the world if you don't have that.
True enough. True enough. Lovely. So Thank you for that. And for the next 30 minutes, the floor is yours.
So I have a mix of work. I was telling Stacy I didn't want to just read my entire book from beginning to end if I want to sell anything. Um, so I have a couple of poems from my book, and I have a couple of brand new poems. Some of them I haven't ever read before, and one of them I wrote yesterday. So um, I'm going to start off with one of the poems from my book. Um, and this one's called DEIA. When my white colleague calls me angry during a DEIA plus work meeting on Zoom, all I can think about is the plane ride. My hand grasping the hand of my father as the plane soars above the clouds. I am 7 and wearing a bow in my hair, kind that's big and colorful, the kind you can't miss, the one my mother carefully weaved into my braid. Under his breath, my father hums Nino Bravo's song America, the one that translated says that when God thought of Eden, he thought of America. I think about my mother, those early days trying to teach my father English, trying to explain to him all of the rules that don't make sense, how his tongue sounded heavy against the politeness of the language he tried so hard to cradle in his mouth. I remember how elementary school was the last time my throat ever held my accent, how people at church would tease him because his 3 sounded like tree. Maybe that's why all I notice is how whiteness barks. I think about that day we went back to visit Nicaragua, how I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror inside of a shoe vendor's tent as we walked through the open air market. The day I was wearing that skirt and the bright red off-the-shoulder blouse with the flower embroidery and the zipper up the back, my curly hair braided down one shoulder. How I started to cry because while I looked like a local in the mirror, I had never felt like more of a stranger to my own reflection, and I couldn't remember the last time I had ever lied to a mirror before. I think about my mother's recipes, the ones she tried to teach me during the years when all I cared about was fitting into whiteness, how I never learned a single one, how I envy the Latina girls that know our dances, how I envy the Latinos with their own inside jokes that they tell themselves in Spanish only because I never knew it was okay to rebel, because I never knew it was okay to cling to the remnants of my culture, how I haven't been back home in over 10 years, how I have a degree in English and still have cashiers at Walmart ask me questions slowly and loudly. I think about the ways I have made my brown body small, how whiteness requires you to fold to the point of breaking and then faults you for the shattered pieces, how the last white boy told me every day that I was intimidating, how I learned to fold softness into my words, to look at the ground when I spoke, to hold my arms close to my body, to breathe before opening my mouth, how there are few people in this world that I have ever felt safe enough to be angry with, how my anger requires a level of trust, a level of security clearance that most people are not given, how my anger is a privilege most people will never have, how I actually cry when I'm angry, how the volume of my voice that they are hearing during this work meeting is my attempt to drown out the terror of being too brown clawing at my throat, how I wonder if there will ever be a place soft enough for me to just exist, how I wonder where that girl in the mirror is now, if I lost her for good, if it's too late to call her back, if she's still wearing those bright colors, if she still braids her hair, if her 3 sounds like tree, if she's keeping our accents safe. One poem in and already crying. This is going great. So I wrote this next poem at the Pocket MFA program with Jose Hernandez Diaz, who's amazing, love him. And it's called On Eden. And it has always been the continuous sin, the fruit taken without consent from the tree, the denial, the lie. Perhaps it is why I keep the model airplane he helped me build, my grandfather. It would make sense for him to be religious, plucker of fruit without consent, but the plane keeps getting packed up, wrapped in tissue paper and unpacked in every new house, apartment. I once thought it was sentimental, but now my daughter sleeps in the same room where it floats in the corner, suspended from the ceiling with fishing wire, a relic, reminder how even snakes used to look like angels, lose their wings, slither on their stomachs with forked tongues, if we are brave enough to cut off their wings. Let the younger trees grow their fruit in peace. Let them lose them when they please. This next poem is also in my book, not new, but one that I read almost every chance that I get. So you guys have probably heard it about 10 times, but we'll read it again. We'll make it a nice, not even 11. This is called Liturgy for the Lost. Last year, you pierced your ears. You grew up pastor's daughter in a denomination that taught you your body belonged to God and to man before it could ever belong to you. Taught you jewelry was a sin, piercings were abomination, relegated to something the lost did. While most of your classmates wore earrings from the time they were babies, here you are, 34 years old and still learning how to navigate the holes you chose less than a year ago. There are times when you have getting an earring in. There are the really beautiful but big earrings you purchased but are still too afraid to wear. There is beauty in fear, in knowing you are not ready, but that you can choose when you are. Religion robbed you of choice for so long, taught you men could say what was acceptable for your body, do with it what they wished. Yesterday, you cried because you couldn't get your left earring to cooperate, had to call your best friend, have her FaceTime you through it. Know this moment is still a choice. Know that renovations require moments of breaking. Today, you arrange the new earring stand you bought. Carefully place the studs, unwrap the heavy pairs of earrings you so carefully curated. As you look at the happiness on your vanity, remember the years you would stare at your classmates' ears longingly, knowing you could rock the earrings they chose to wear, the jewelry they didn't have to hide from their moms, how you dreamed up the outfits you would wear, if only. No, this is celebration. Breathe in the choices you have made for yourself. You were once told your body was a temple. This was the reason you were indoctrinated against piercings, against tattoos, against choice. Remember, when your Bible was written, it was written only by men. They were allowed to be priests, so it is only fitting they believed themselves gods, made you believe choice was desecration. If it be defilement by man, let it be called worship. If by you, let it be called abomination. When you are ready to wear the biggest pair of earrings you own, remember to brush back your hair, extend your neck as you walk and let them swing. Let them be pendants, let them be flags, let them be beatitudes. Blessed are they that renovate temples, for they shall rebuild peace. This is how temples are reclaimed, how holy ground is restored. Let the congregation of those still in captivity say hallelujah as you walk past. Let them say God has brought them out of their captivity, and she be looking fine in some earrings. Let the flash of color from your ear show them a taste of holy. Let the temple be restored to its former glory. Let the people say amen. I really love that piece. I don't know if it's okay for poets to actually say that, but
Yes, it is, and holy shit.
Honey, if I could write like that, I'd be bragging on it all the time. So yeah, you can say whatever you
I
want.
really love that piece. So a couple of years ago, my ex-husband passed away suddenly, and I like to read this poem just to keep him still here. Um, and this one's also in my book. And sometimes grief is an unopened bag of flamin' hot Cheetos. The one I bought to celebrate what should have been your 36th birthday, but cannot bring myself to open. Sometimes grief hides deep in the tremble of my hands every time I reach for it, lurks within the terror that says the moment the Cheetos are gone, your ghost will disappear as well. Because even though I am healing, and even though I feel stronger than ever, there are days I wonder if I am good enough to hold the attention of a ghost, remembering the day I found out you cheated after having walked through hell for you, realizing you can't be a ride or die if you are riding alone. Maybe that's why I'm still on this ride, even after you died, still trying to keep you here, still needing to prove I'm worth your time, still trying to become everything I felt you needed me to be. No one prepares you for the rage that comes with burying your soulmate when you're 34. How every pregnancy announcement, engagement, wedding, home purchase, family photo will hit exposed nerve. How everything when you are in your 30s and have friends involves all of these things. I have lost count of how many times a single heart can shatter. No one tells you how to grieve the only person that has ever held every piece of your heart, only to break every last bit of it. How do you grieve the man you left because you had to save yourself? How do you explain to the ones that watched you run how you packed what you could in such a hurry that you left your heart behind, and you're not sure it has all come back yet, even after you watched his body be lowered into the ground? Maybe the unopened bag of Cheetos in the pantry and the memories of the way he looked at you, that voicemail you saved of his laughter, are the only things that make it possible to bear the fact that he will never laugh again. Maybe remembering someone's light is the only way we survive the night. So this next poem is a new one as well. I've actually never read this poem before, so I might stumble over a few words. My apologies in advance. But it came from a kind of a funny moment now that I think about it. Yeah, new shit. The poem about huevos a caballo, about the sauce, the oil, the onion, the tomatoes, the pinch of cubito, the sage, the Worcestershire sauce, the salt, the sugar in a pan, about the tortilla fried in a pan with oil until brown and crunchy, about the egg cracked over a fire, the fork tines lightly popping yolk, basted until opaque, egg on tortilla, smothered with sauce that has been blended, topped with hot sauce and cotija. How this poem could be recipe, how this poem looks like recipe because the poet cooking the huevos a caballo is Costa Rican. How this poem looks like recipe because poet had to ask Costa Rican mother for recipe so poet could make it for Afghan man but forgot the name of the recipe because poet never knew what these eggs were called, only that it was what poet's brown father used to get served for breakfast on Sundays. How the only eggs poet knows the names of are huevos rancheros. How Spanish feels foreign in poet's own mouth, unfamiliar like name of recipe. How poet asked Costa Rican mother how to cook huevos caballeros. How poet told Costa Rican cousin who laughed with Costa Rican wife, how Costa Rican cousin said these were the most polite eggs Afghan man would ever have, but the joke was lost on poet momentarily. How Costa Rican cousin has been back to visit homeland at least 15 times since poet and family fled Central America. How poet hardly remembers any of it. How poet cooks the eggs ashamed, wanting them to make poet feel closer to home, but only feeling more like foreigner, more like fraud. How this poem looks like recipe because poet doesn't want anyone to know, would rather teach reader how to cook eggs instead, would rather not tell reader poet didn't make any for poet to eat, only Afghan man, would rather not admit poet feels too foreign to eat them, would rather talk about the sauce, the tortilla, the egg, than what it feels like to be alien to motherland. One will at least nourish somebody, would rather write about unfamiliar food than unfamiliar soil. I didn't realize how hard it was to read the way I wrote it. Maybe won't be including that in a book tour coming up. But
Oh, no, 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 no. You have to include that one. I will follow you around from stop to make
oh God,
sure that you include it if necessary.
it's gonna make everybody hungry because now I'm hungry, damn. So this next poem is in my book, and it's one that's very near and dear to me. Love letter to the immigrant. Yes, you. The one holding fragments of an evaporating language beneath your tongue, crossing oceans so your children could break barriers instead of soil. To the mother, tucking pieces of her native tongue into her children's backpacks. To the father, trading master's degrees for chicken plants. To the children, entering classrooms in a country that does not like natural hair, curls, or color. They will call you ugly. Try to wrap your identity within a slur, build cages around you, call you illegal, make fun of your accent and skin color. Remember, when they try to break you, how your ancestors carried the same skin tone, how you are still beautiful. Do not let them steal the language from your throat. They will try to convince you that tongues cannot carry two languages, but remember, your accents are landmarks, reminders of the homes left behind. Remember, every piece of identity you keep is a connection to home and to those that came before. Remember that seeds do not concern themselves with how deeply they've been planted. They just take root and bloom. So I have just a couple more pieces. I always choose way too many and end up throwing out half. But this next piece is for my tiny girl. I can already feel myself crying. Don't do it. Don't do it. So here we go. I'm going to try to get through this without bawling like a baby. For my daughter. When your father and I chose your names, we chose the first in Persian and the second in Spanish. So you would always remember where you came from. So your ancestors would never be far behind. Parwana for butterfly. Ested after my mother, and a brave young woman whose courage saved her people, because it is possible to be delicate and beautiful and small and unimaginably brave, because tiny, beautiful things can save the world too. And you, my love, are a tiny, beautiful, powerful thing. The way that I would build a world just to keep you safe, just to keep you believing in sunsets and flowers, just to keep you smiling at the sweetness of animals, and in awe of the magnificence of trees. But no one becomes strong in paradise, and we must all break. I know too much of the art of putting my heart back together, and I would sacrifice myself to keep you from learning, but you are already tough. The first thump of your heartbeat that made me jump because of the volume made my doctor smile and say, "She is very strong." I could have told her that. And I remember your father, a refugee from Afghanistan that has spent his entire life fighting evil, who is still soft and gentle and kind, still cries when I do. And your mother, an immigrant from Costa Rica, who has spent her entire life fighting demons and is still soft too. And now we both have you. Sweetheart, I do not know what the world will look like when you arrive, but I know we love you dearly. All 5 inches of you. Your father and I have stood on the backs and the bones of our ancestors, and someday you will stand on ours. Maybe when we're gone, you will finally find the place our hands have collectively been reaching for. Maybe until then, we can offer you a little more than we had. Our people are broken and struggling, and we have spent our lives trying to heal. I do not know who we will be as parents. I know we will fail, and often we are only human, but we will learn as we go and apologize as we need to and love you no matter what you do or who you become. So dream, little one. Grow, explore, fail. We got you. No matter how many times the world shows you its light and its darkness, we will never be far behind. We will not be perfect, my love, but we will be our best to show you that even in your imperfections, you are beautiful and worthy of love and grace. And until we see your face, grow, little one. For now, you are safe. For now, I am holding you. For now, this world cannot touch you. Soon enough, you will be in our arms, and we will protect you as best as we can. So be you, little one. Be all butterfly wing and wind clap. Be all silk and warrior. Be yourself, my love. It's all you need to do. There is nothing more perfect in this world than you. Oh my Lord, you guys. Not me ugly crying on the Zoom. Whew. You know those
It's fine. You got this.
you know those girls that have like the delicate one tear? That's not me. That's never been.
I've never understood how that's done.
How do they do
Or
that? Good grief. Okay, so
you've
I've
got
got
about well, we've got about 4 minutes.
it. I've got 2 pieces left. I think I
You're
can
good.
do it. This is the piece that I wrote yesterday. It doesn't even have a title yet. So here we go. The enemy is never the human, but the alcohol. Sometimes it is hard to separate the two, and tonight he is slamming doors and screaming again. My daughter, my wide-eyed wonder of a 1-year-old girl, watches my face, her lip already beginning to tremble. I clap my hands to the sound of the slamming door and start a game of patty cake. She looks confused and smiles. I paint a smile over my own trembling lip, splash joy across my fear. Now, every time the door slams, I begin to clap. Every time she and I play, I raise my voice in play screams, let her squeal, and listen to it echo across the living room. Teach her to make a game out of the things I am afraid of. Tell her everything is okay as my own heart somersaults into my throat. Tonight, she laughs herself to sleep, smiles as she dreams, and I pull her against my chest, prepare for another night of not sleeping to make sure she stays safe, to make sure the animals stay safe, to make sure I am awake enough to protect, make sure I am awake enough to run if tonight is the night we need to. Somewhere, a mother claps to cover the sounds of bombs, and I pretend to be asleep, curled protectively around her tiny body as the screaming grows louder and the door slams make the walls shake. So many mothers can turn blood into the beginnings of a rainbow, learn to say the explosion is just the sun, the thick smoke a cloud, paint flowers out of shrapnel, make beauty out of whatever fresh hell man has to offer. And last piece, it's the penultimate in the collection, so I feel like it's fitting to end on it. It's called Genesis, for my mom. The women in my family are all creatives. My father as well, but his mind works well with numbers. Must be why he knows I am only 10% like him, bearing hands identical to his, hands that play guitar like him. But my hands no longer fold in prayer, can't seem to leash my identity like he'd like me to. I am 90% of my mother's kindness. This, the only part of her he thinks survived him. A man of God, of course, desires to tame the earth and all that is upon it. That is to say, my father tried to burn down the wilderness of my mother's willpower since long ago. I spent my childhood watching him try to force her into the doormat-shaped role we Latinas are raised to fill for our men, as only their mothers can be brave or magic, but only enough to raise the men that will then break their daughters, and so on. I have long ago stopped paying mind to his ravings. Hands and kindness, foundations, but not the whole of this temple. Fire be as holy a God, just ask Moses. Fire, what sent him to Egypt, deliver his people from chains. Fire can be the greatest Genesis. My mother is quiet these days. Her warrior song hidden behind the night of my father's expectations. But even silent warriors still keep their flame, still flicker even when hidden away, and my mother has clung to enough of her heat to whisper it to me when he leaves the room, calls me her hawk, calls me her uncageable thing, calls me wild. The doctors say they are concerned about her heart, unsure of how many more beats it holds. Fear is strong enough to freeze even the most powerful of flames, and her days appear to be numbered. I am unwilling to consider if my fire is strong enough to survive without her tinder. I watch her grow more tired. Notice the way she leans against me when we are together, as if trying to gift me her remaining spark. How she cups my face in her hands, tells me I am a wonder, tells me to run from anyone that does not call me miracle, tells me I am brave. This her way of saying I cannot buckle, this her way of saying I must hold on, this her way of saying I have a 6-year-old niece, I have a 1-year-old daughter, 2 brown girls we love, speaks with an urgency, although we do not say the reason why out loud. She calls to tell me about her latest doctor's visit, speaks about their concerns as if she is reciting a recipe, pauses, and then whispers that I make her brave. The women in my family are all creatives, but I am the only one that has ever openly defied my father, the only one that has ever survived his gospel. But my mother is strong enough to turn herself into burning bush, turn my niece and my daughter into Egypt, turn me into liberator, commands me to break the cycle, to heal the generational wounds that she was not able to mend. We rarely talk about fire's ability to heal, how soil requires flame for what's new, how it can be healthy, and my mother knows she is old growth, wants her granddaughters to sit beneath the shade of healthier trees, even though she might not live long enough to see it, tells me not to be afraid, makes me promise I will not run from my power, makes me promise I will do what she couldn't. Everything must come to an end, she says, and I have gifted the world a phoenix, tells me I was built to survive this heat, and sometimes to heal we must first burn, tells me our girls are lucky to have me, tells me to teach them to be strong, but when I'm gone, implied, hovering like the flicker of a flame right before it turns into smoke.
Oh my word. Uh, y'all open up your mic, throw this woman some
Bravo,
roses.
that was great.
Good grief.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really good. You bared your
Absolutely,
soul, my dear.
absolutely phenomenal.
Powerful.
Um,
Thank you.
so, tell us again where we can get this book, because I can see some lives getting changed just real quick. Yeah.
It's available for pre-order at Black Lawrence Press. You can find it on their website, and the link is in the chat box, and also on all of my profiles everywhere.
Are you making plans at all to tour with this?
You know, probably, and I'm probably gonna take Tiny Girl with me, so it's me and Tiny Girl hitting the road. You know,
Okay.
have my little salesman. She's cute enough.
Right? That kid could pack a Barnes and Noble all by herself.
So just slap her face on all the posters. We've got the marketing taken.
Right? Anyway, thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic.
I
Really
think we have a
appreciate your
place
taking
for
the
you.
time.
We have a place for you to stay in the Bay Area.
Oh, I'm definitely headed that way, Norma. Don't you worry.
Well, let me know, because if you're going to be in my state, then I need to, come to wherever it is you are.
Don't worry. In the next month, I'm going to start hitting up everybody. I'm going to be that annoying for it.
Hey, there are worse things in the world to be. Noelia, Cerna, thank you so much. This was exactly what I and the rest of the world needed, particularly today. Um, the next installment of this will be sometime next month. Can't tell you who. We are lucky enough to actually be hosting the legendary Irish poet Kathy Carson.
Mm.
So those of you who would like to come back to that, we'll be happy to see you. For more information about Tesoro, you can go to our website, which is www.firesingers.com, and find out just about anything you feel like you need to know about us. Noelia, thank you again. I stopped messing with time zones some time ago. I'm hopeless. Even, with the help of Google and 19 or 20 maps, I still can't make them work. So I'm just gonna say, whatever season of the day you are in, have a fantastic rest of whatever it is. And Tesoro and I will see you somewhere around the way. Thank you again so much.